Here we go. I have been threatening to do a podcast for quite a long time now. And it's not that I think that anybody has been sitting like anxiously waiting for the podcast or anything. But today I just woke up and I thought it's about time. And then I didn't get straight into it. I procrastinated for quite a while. The time now is 14:41. Angel number. And this is the start of the podcast. It doesn't have a name yet. It doesn't have much of a purpose other than I have been threatening for a very long time, and there have been minuscule things such as the name and the purpose that have been holding me back. So, welcome to the podcast of all podcasts. Don't want to call it a podcast, but that's because I like to be different. This is my space. This is where I'm going to be talking. This is going to be my little vlog of what I think are interesting insights. Like, to be honest, I've got an awful lot to say, and I just spend most of my time with Chris. That's my partner, by the way. And I just don't know that he's that interested in all the things that I've got to say. So, what I'm really seeking is external validation via this podcast. I'm just kidding. A little bit. We're always seeking a little bit of external validation, aren't we? My branding is actually based around not wanting external validation. But let's be honest. I was going to call it ambitious and aligned. I'm now thinking to call it conscious and confident. I don't really know. I'm not sure that it matters all that much. I think what matters most of all is that I bring a little bit of joy to your life. I am a woman on a mission to empower other women. No, I'm not. I'm a woman on a mission to help other women find their own power within. I don't want to empower you. In fact, you'll probably at times find me a little bit disempowering and triggering, but that's just in order to activate your own power. There's method in it. It's not on purpose. Kind of made it my whole brand to be a bitch, but that's not to be misunderstood. It's not actually to be a bitch. I don't actually want you to think that I'm a bitch, but the thing is, when someone's honest with you, when someone tells you the truth, people usually say she's a bit of a bitch, but just know that I'm not a bitch. My highest intention is much deeper, much more spiritual than it may present. And I used to try and present it in a pretty spiritual sort of way. And then I just broke out of that and thought, this is a whole load of nonsense, isn't it? Because nobody's actually functioning and operating like this. I mean, some people are. Some people definitely are. That is definitely some people's vibe, but it wasn't mine. Like, I definitely didn't want to just wear hemp clothing. And like, I don't really want to grow my own food, to be honest. I quite liked going to the shop to buy it. Preferable if somebody else has grown it organically, but I just don't think that I wanted to do that. Not that that necessarily correlates to spirituality, but I feel like you could possibly understand if you really listen to the deeper message in that. And the deeper message is that we are spiritual. We're all spiritual. And when I say there's a deeper meaning behind my work, I truly do believe that women have very special gifts. I believe men do too, by the way. I just only work with women. So I speak to women, but I believe it both. It's not that I think men or women are more superior in any way, shape, or form. It's not about some kind of battle of the sexes. I just believe that women are a lot more powerful than how they present. They're a lot stronger than how they present. And I actually think that there's a lot of shadows that exist amongst women that are keeping us very vulnerable and keeping us in a sort of victim-like mindset, which, don't want to make it too extreme, but is actually really impacting humanity, because at the end of the day, we're the ones that raise humanity. We're the ones that birth humanity, and there's a more natural way of being on the whole, not always. So, I know we're not allowed to do gender specifics anymore, but women do tend to be more emotionally, more spiritually inclined. So have that sort of deeper innate wisdom. And I feel that it's time to really allow that power to shine through and actually become the embodiment of that work, rather than just having all the knowledge up here and getting quite frustrated by the external reality and the way in which the world is functioning all of the time, and constantly wanting to, dismantle the patriarchy or like pull down whatever is happening external to us. And really, my work is about looking at what's going on inside and how can we dismantle the patriarchy up here, and how can we just really step into our power. I'm running a course right now. Step into your power is such a generic term, isn't it? But it's such an interesting thing, to me. Stepping into your power, for some people, that's going to be really profound. Like if I was talking to like Taylor Swift years before her rise to stardom, talking about stepping into her power, her soul is going to know what her path was and destined to be. So that might feel like really big for her. But for some of us, it could just be about like voicing your own opinions, or, putting yourself first, or, looking after your body, eating right, all of those different things. Like stepping into your power for me is really just about shedding the things that aren't actually you. And what I've found super interesting over the years of working with women is many of our problems are not that unique. And they're not. And I know some are. So don't fight me. You don't need to fight me. I know some are. I am such a sucker for uniqueness. Anybody who's into astrology, my Venus is in Aquarius. Little insight about me there. I am obsessed with uniqueness. It is what I am most drawn to. If you don't already know my partner, Chris, that will give you a good idea as to, why I am very attracted to him, because he is an incredibly unique human being. I don't believe that I'm that unique myself, to be honest, but I've got a little thing for unique people. And I don't just mean in the romantic sense, but also people as a whole. I'm very fascinated by what makes individuals different. But we get caught up on what a lot makes us actually the same. What is actually stuff that is really unconscious behavior. I do something called Gene Keys readings, and inside of that, he calls it like junk DNA. I like to think of it as like our primal selves when we were less like conscious, fear-based things. And like particularly for women, there is something that I call the web of lies. And this is like all of these different levels of consciousness and beliefs about ourselves that we're all plugged into. And we think it's unique. And I'm talking like feeling you can't share your voice, feeling you don't have any assertiveness, feeling selfish if you do anything for yourself, feeling insecure, feeling ugly, not being comfortable in your body, feeling tired all the time, feeling like you're procrastinating, feeling like maybe you've got ADHD, feeling like there's something wrong with your brain, feeling like there's not enough hours in the day. Like all of these different, like if you were to write down all of your complaints about your day, outside of if an actual relevant event has happened in your day at that time. But if you were to write down all of the things that you were struggling with, one of the unfortunate but beautiful things is it's not that unique. It's really not. We can always sort of find some category to like put it into, and different archetypal energies. And that's something that I'm super interested in doing, not in order to categorize you and make you not unique, but in order to help you to see maybe this is just some sort of level of archetypal consciousness that you're plugged into, that you're used to being around all of the time, that is kind of keeping you stuck. And if we can actually start to see beyond that and see that it's not like your whole identity, that's not who you are, you can actually evolve beyond that and change, then maybe you can start to actually step into your power and express that 1% of you that is your complete uniqueness. I remember hearing this thing, I think it actually might have been in the Gene Keys book, about don't quote me on this. I should have put a disclaimer at the start of this brand new podcast that none of what I say should be taken as whole truth. I probably won't ever cite anything, or, not my vibe. But something like 99% of our DNA is like all the same. And then there's that 1% that makes us different. Might be like something like 99% of our DNA is the same as a banana or something. I actually think it is something like that. It might be a chimpanzee. Who knows? But then there's this 1% of our DNA that makes us unique and makes us completely different. What we are, in my opinion, mostly like sort of functioning on is all that stuff that just makes us the same. And we need to kind of eliminate that and tap into that 1% to find what the essence of your soul truly is, what your purpose is, and what you did come here to do. And is something that I encounter quite a lot with people is they are endlessly searching for their purpose. And you will have heard this many, many times, but your purpose ultimately is to be you. That really is your purpose. And inside of a lot of my work and my courses, that's really kind of the essence of what we're doing inside of it. You know, I'm running a course. I'm just about to launch it today, The Bitch in Me, which is a shadow work course. And shadow work, if you don't know, is becoming aware of your unconscious patterns and behaviors, like parts of yourself that you might have pushed away and not associate with, finding out why they might be showing up in unhealthy ways and reintegrating them back into you. So when I say reintegrate, imagine as if a whole part of your personality is being pushed away over here. It's being made to feel like it's not really accepted as a part of you. And then when we're reintegrating it, we're making it whole again. So you start to feel whole within yourself. And that is something I've really found within myself after like 10 years of, over 10 years of my own personal healing journey. What I have compiled inside of The Bitch in Me is really actually shit that works. And it's because I've come back to just being me, you know, like I just am who I am, and a much cleaner version and a much more embodied version, non-reactive. And but I've got a personality. You know what I mean? I've got a personality, and that personality is the bitch, and the bitch exists in you too. But there was a reason I went into that, and I absolutely can't remember it, which is likely to happen quite a lot when you're listening to me. I may just go off on a little tangent. And I didn't prep a single thing for this recording. I didn't prep anything. I got my table out. I sat down. The most effort I've gone to is the ring light. And that's not to say that I'm not going to put effort into this, because I absolutely am. You know, as mentioned, something that used to come up a lot when I would be searching, you know, and seeking and looking for like discovering your purpose and all of these different things, is find something that you really enjoy. And something that I really enjoy is to talk. And honestly, selfishly, like literally talk, not have a conversation, just talk. So a podcast for me seemed like the best thing in the world. It's also around using your voice. Just using my voice in general is a big part of my path. So sometimes when I'm doing like Instagram and different things, it's so short now, you know, the form of content that we're able to put out. And I wrote an email this morning. I'm actually going to share this email with you in just a moment. But I wrote an email this morning, and my sister messaged me straight away, and she was like, "That was so brilliant. Like, you're really good at writing." And I've just found that I'm a little bit better at long format stuff, or at least I think I am, just to give myself some praise. And then when it comes to the shorter form of content, I think it's more difficult to get to know someone, you know. And the truth is, I really would like you to get to know me, and I'd like to get to know you, so that we can, you know, co-create. Should I say a better word? That's a little bit cheesy, isn't it? So that we can come together as empowered individuals. You know, like I mentioned before, I'm super into what makes an individual unique, and how can we start to dissolve those just very generic things that are put onto us through programming, through our parents, through our friendship circles, all of those different things. And I hope that through my work I can invite you a different angle on healing, and a little bit of fun. I like to think that I'm quite funny, but you either get it or you won't you? Do you know what I mean? So I wanted to share with you my email that I sent out this morning, just as a little bit of a concept for you to reflect on today in the intro. The intro to Rebecca's podcast, the Rebecca Stewart podcast, Rebecca Margaret podcast. Let me know, like, if you listen, give me a name. I'm so open to suggestions, you know. Anyway, so I was talking about the term the path of least resistance. I don't know if you've ever heard this phrase. So it's the idea that we should choose the path with the most ease and flow, the one that feels aligned with the universe. So I'm not totally against this phrase, because like I just mentioned, me choosing to step more into my purpose and choose to like use my voice more, that in a way is like the path of least resistance. It's like, that's easier than what you might think it is. I don't necessarily, you know, need to go and do a course, need to go and do this, need to whatever. I just need to speak, you know? So that's where like this phrase makes sense. But I'd sent out another email the day before talking about how we can cling to spiritual concepts really from a wounded space. And this is one of those. So choosing the path of least resistance is something that we can drop in on sometimes, excuse me, and twist it, you know. And the thing is, when you're on a path of like growing and expanding, and I truly believe that we are all on a path of growing and expanding, I think it's part of our purpose when we think about separating from the one consciousness. You know, we are all one, we are all interconnected. And when we separate from it, why do we separate it? In order to experience ourselves as something different, in order to grow and expand consciousness. So, you know, my unique perceptions, and we see this where we have like different books and philosophy, science, all of these different things, and there's people compiling information and then they're growing and expanding consciousness. So I do believe that is part of our purpose, to grow and to expand in whatever capacity that looks like. It's going to be different for everyone. But guess what's going to resist when you want to change? Guess what's going to cause resistance? Your ego. So if we start using phrases like follow the path of least resistance, we're never going to get anything done. Like when I think about my own growth, finding my purpose, my relationship with my partner and my relationships with my friends, my family, when I think about doing shadow work, when I think about working on my relationship to money, when I think about breaking bad habits, when I think about exercise and doing Pilates, all of that, it has all come with resistance. Because what a boring human being I would be if I was like, yeah, it's super easy. All of that was really easy for me. So what I want to introduce you to is the path of most resistance. So for a moment, just think about something that you really want in life. Maybe it's writing a book, finding a partner, becoming a millionaire, like whatever it is, it doesn't matter. I feel that everybody has something that their heart pulls them to regularly. And take a moment and close your eyes and visualize your highest dream. I'll just give you a little second to do that. Now, tell me, does that dream, first of all, are you living that dream right now? And if you're not, why not? Is it because it comes with some resistance, or does it feel easy and flowy? Or does it feel resistance? Like, unless you're literally living it right now with ease and flow, I'm going to assume that there's some resistance to living that life. So if I asked you right now, if that dropped in, you know, as we like to do in that spiritual bypass and sort of way it said, follow the path of least resistance, would you go, okay, let me pursue my dreams and put myself in uncomfortable situations? Or would you be like, maybe I'll have a glass of wine and watch the television and eat some chocolate? Because honestly, if I was going to follow the path of least resistance right now, I probably wouldn't have recorded this podcast. The path of least resistance wasn't this. There was resistance. There's been resistance for a very long time. So the thing is, it's the ego, the shadow, the different things that are trying to protect us that is going to cause the resistance. And the ego isn't all bad. My message is definitely not to make you egoless, because I mean, there's so much depth behind it. Inside of inside of my course, the bitch in me, we go into the ego. But you know, your ego gives you a sense of self, a sense of identity. And it would just be boring to all be floating around egoless. I reckon that's where we were before we like decided to expand into human beings. Like, and everyone was like, what are we doing? You know, that's the way my brain works. So when we start doing shadow work, which is a huge part of my work, we start to see how the ego can absolutely cockblock our growth and the path that is meant for us. Because the unhealthy ego, the one that you're not aware of, it is like a protector, you know, and it hates change, it gets defensive, it clings to old identities, And it can even disguise itself as your intuition. So sometimes we like think, oh, but I feel my intuition is pulling me to the path of least resistance, when actually it's your ego, like, don't put yourself in danger, keep yourself protected. That's not something we do. You're not a confident girl. You don't do that sort of stuff. Don't put yourself out there. What will people think? That might be embarrassing, blah, 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 blah. So you're like, oh, it's easier to not do that. You know, in the middle of a podcast that you're recording, maybe like the internet goes off and you're like, oh, that was the universe. Let me follow the path of least resistance. Like, no, go against the resistance sometimes. Build up your inner strength and your inner growth. So there's you now and there's you where you want to be. And like I mentioned, and I say this to women all the time, it's not about this like dream life and, some kind of like BS. It's BS. It's just about you being proud of you and you showing up as the best possible version of you. And that doesn't have to be a multimillionaire living in Bali, like working off their laptop. It might just be the you that like gets up early and has a glass of water and like whatever. But there's a whole lot of resistance in between the you now and the you that you want to be. And that resistance comes from your shadow, your ego, and probably projections from other people around, which is their shadows and ego, hence the web of lies. Once you integrate those things, so you get to know and you integrate your shadow, and once you get to know your ego and make it healthy again, the resistance lessens. So then, yes, we may start to follow the path of least resistance. But what I want you to think about today to finalize Rebecca's episode 1 podcast is what feels like the path of most resistance for me today. And how can I work with the parts of me that are resistant? And here's the thing, they usually resist because they're scared. They usually resist because they're scared. From there, guys, if you would like any more further information about my work, you can like, subscribe, whatever. I'm going to put this on YouTube. It's not getting onto Spotify yet because I've got resistance to that. Don't know how to do it. You can like and subscribe to this channel. You can follow me on Instagram, which is at @RebeccaMargaret_. And I would love, love, love any feedback from here in the podcast today, any subjects, things that you would like for me to speak on. As I said, we are launching the Bitch in Me today. So if you want some more information on that, just send me a message. Like, I'm really, really open to communication. I feel like people are a little bit, the ego resists sending that message, but I am open to communication and messages. Again, anybody who's into astrology or Gemini rising. So communication is my thing. So please do reach out. Put a little comment down below. Let me know what you thought. Any names for the podcast? Hit me with them. What do we think about conscious and confident? Ambitious and aligned doesn't feel aligned anymore. Conscious and confident I'm into, because that's what I want to help you to become. Conscious, aware, regulated, grounded, and confident. Because those two combined, we can destroy the patriarchy.